And so far, Trap with a pretty convincing win. Dark, honestly, Dark didn't feel like he really knew what he wanted to do there. I'm not sure what Trap saw. He might have seen some Zerglings on the way out. But he shut down the Baneling bust. Dark, even though Trap knew the Baneling bust was coming, I feel like Dark could have done a lot more damage with that. But his Banelings did not connect with what they needed to. They didn't really hit the probes. And a lot of his Zerglings were just kind of hitting the wall. That was, for all intents and purposes, pretty sloppy. So, we'll have to see in game number 2 if Dark can kind of pull it back a little bit. Is that? Oh, okay. He sees... Now, this is a reaction to the probe coming in. He saw the early probe out off the pylon scout, or maybe even... It was off the pylon. It has to have been. But Dark realizing, okay, you're going to get there. You're going to probably block my hatch. I might as well go for the gas pool. Immediate reaction, because he saw it with the Overlord. A drone is going to come down. The immediate block out of Trap. And there's the argument, is this really worth it? Because it's a pretty big investment. It slows down your own expansion as a Protoss to get a probe this early out and put a pylon down for a block. Is there going to be a cancel at the last second? Yes, and Dark slips in. Because most Protosses will indeed cancel that pylon. But the thing is, for Zerg, it's not just about delaying another base. It's about also delaying their production. As Zerg, your hatcheries produce your units, right? You have larvae coming out of them. If your hatchery is delayed by any amount of time, that's not just less income, but it's also less production. You can make less Zerglings, less drones. So it's more than just like delaying a Nexus for a Protoss. It's delaying all parts of the Zerg infrastructure in order to delay that hatch. And if you do force them to take a hatch at the third base, that also creates more vulnerabilities, because things like Queens can't easily move between the bases. Adept Shades and Oracles can really exploit the distance between them. So, a lot of Protosses, and I think Zergs would agree, it's pretty worth it to be able to block that base for as long as possible and really disrupt the Zerg's gameplay. But with all that said, it's not a huge deal. It's all about little things. It's about details in StarCraft, and especially since these players... Right now, we have a bit over 650 APM combined in this match. So, a lot of details. And that's only going to go up as time goes on. As Zergling actually gets in and confirms the Stargate. I mean, he knew it was going to be a Stargate. But confirming it gives you... There's that 5-10% of the time where they put a Twilight Council and go for Glaives. Or get a Dark Shrine and go for Archon drop. Things like that. It removes that option. Looks like Zergling Speed has completed. Dark still has only 1 out of 3 in gas to maximize the mineral count. He's not looking to tech up more for a little while, because now is the powering phase. You try to block any Protoss attack. You deal with the Oracles. You throw back the Adepts. And get as many drones as possible, and then decide, alright, am I going up to Lair? Am I getting +1 melee attack? Does the Protoss look interested in the third, or are they teching up behind their Stargate? But we do have the Oracle combining with the Adepts. This means that Zerglings can't simply surround the Adepts and kill them. But with a couple Queens, the Oracle can be pushed away. Remember, the Adept Shades don't have as much vision. They have some, but not as much vision as the regular Adepts. So if you move your units out of range of that vision, sometimes Protoss players will let the Shade complete. You can surround him with your Zerglings. The Roach Warren. The safety Roach Warren here, essentially. And he should be putting 2 in gas in a moment. Dark, don't make me a liar. The Roach Warren here is just for any big Adept play. He could transition it into pressuring a third base if he sees an opportunity. If the third base is really quick and he's relying on Adepts, well, yeah, sure, you can do a Roach timing. But something to point out here, there's no Lair yet out of Dark. So any sort of timing will be without Roach speed. So it seems like Dark just wants to play defensive. He honestly was going out for a 4th base here. Everything points to a defensive Zerg player right now in Dark. Oh, finding an opportunity is Trap with the Oracle. Good for him. 3 drones go down. But where is that Lair, Dark? He's got money in the bank. I'm not sure what he's waiting for. A 4th base in Dark, expanding quickly again. No 3rd base. Dark going to be a little bit surprised to see that, but that does give away... Oh, Trap actually going for essentially an all-in here. He's going to have 6 gates. A Templar Archives is on the way. This is Archon Charge Lot. A Lair's on the way. +1 attack starts. There are several queens. 4 queens on the field. Not too many. But roaches are already being produced. 58 drones out of Dark. That's pretty greedy. Trap, if he hits on time, should be able to get some damage. He's taken a 3rd base. This is not just a placeholder. He does want the 3rd, but at the same time, he wants to pressure this 4th out of Dark and get some damage done, ideally before Lair Tech kicks in. Before you have Roach Speed, before you have Hydralisk upgrades of any kind. The 4th base is nearly done. Dark is producing roaches. I believe he's seen some of the Templar as well, or at least he can assume it. But a slight Zergling backstab, gonna pick off a handful of probes, gonna force out a warp in. Very nice here to start for Dark. Gonna slow down this attack, and right now, he's buying time. There are Archons in here deciding to chill for a second. Is there an Immortal with this push? There is not. Charge lots. It looks like he's just gonna go for the heart of the swarm. Does he warp in, is the question. He sees there are far too many roaches there. Kills 1 queen, gets out. Trap's attack has been rebuffed, and he's supply blocked. He just finished the Nexus. All right, that's his next pylon. But at this point, Dark has too much at home. This has kind of forced Dark into the roach pressure. He's making a lot more drones, so Dark right now has shut this down. Despite the fact barely any units have been lost, barely any resources, there's been a lot of details here in this game. Between Trap going for the later 3rd, Dark playing defensive with the later Lair. But it should even out, because Lair Tech was late for Dark, means there's going to be several Immortals. The infrastructure is going to be there for Trap if there's a counterattack. But at the same time, because Dark invested in all this early defense, there's no way for Trap to pressure his 4th. So we're going straight up into the mid-game, 150, 170, 200 supply, without either player really being able to put together any sort of damaging attack. Alright. There's the Storm. A lot of Hydras. It's Roach Hydra, which has come back into style here. A very high economy Zerg. Roach Hydra is not a cost-effective unit composition. Just pound for pound, minerals and gas for minerals and gas. So many Protoss units deal with Roach Hydra. The problem is, the units are so cheap that you can put so many on the field, you can pick apart your opponent. If they all come in trying to bash through the front door, it's easy to set up a choke point with Storm and Immortals and Force Fields. But if suddenly you have a drop with 30 supply of Roach Hydra, and then an attack on the left, another attack on the right, the cost efficiency is spread out, and it becomes easier for the Zerg forces to overwhelm. There's an Observer up here. The War Prism still kind of keeping... Until the Hydras are out, the Roaches can't really move forward very easily. Trap is taking a 4th base. He just finished his +1 attack upgrade. Storm is nearly complete. How many Templar are on the field? 5 Templar. Most of them will have Storms. Here comes Dark, nearly maxed out. Before the 9-minute mark, with all these upgrades, he's getting muscular augments. Overlord speed, +2 attack, and an infestation pit. I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 more hatcheries in a moment. But with this many Immortals and Storm, there's a lot of... Here we go. Dark splitting up his units. Half of them going to the north, the other half going to the southern base here at the 3rd. Trying to come in, seeing where those Templar are. There's a couple Immortals and 1 Templar, and hilariously enough, that might be enough to defend this base on their own. No Lurker Den, going straight up to the Hive is Dark. An interesting choice there. No Spire as well, so I'm not entirely sure what the Hive is going to be for. Vipers are good, but not great, especially with feedback as an option. But a lot of the army is committed to this side. 3 Immortals, 4 Immortals holding the line. There's an Archon as well. Immortals are so good. A Storm hits home. 1 Immortal dies, but everything else, the shield batteries are out of energy. He can push through, but at the same time, Trap moving on the left side. The Hydras working their way through. Have the Immortals have gone down. half, rather. 6 dropper lords are completing. Dark can slip around to the top. That might force a recall into the main. Trap is holding strong on both fronts. We've got 72 drones to 64 probes. No massive economic lead. Dark actually not taking any more bases. He could definitely... There we go. Get some more hatcheries on the field, Dark. There's the Spire. Hive is done. The only thing we're really going to see out of it is upgrades. Broodlords are still a little while out. The Phoenix scouts out the drop. This could bait a recall, and if he's able to do that, then he can catch some units out of position. This many dropper lords, these are not all full, but Trap doesn't necessarily know that. Some stalkers are being warped in. A couple Phoenixes are going to scout. They will see the Hive if Trap is paying attention, but a lot of things are about to happen. We've got the Roach Hydra moving up the center, and also to the other side, the Pincer attack. But who is flanking who is the real question. There's also a drop in the main. The Stalker's trying to hold on. There will be a Warpin getting driven back at the south, and outside the 4th is Dark. Trap holding on beautifully. The charge lot's going to be able to cut through the Roaches and the Hydras in the main. Are there enough units here? The Storms, some handful of Hydras take out an Archon, but Trap holds every single angle. Only 2 Hydras survive in the main. But wait, there was a Hydra drop in the back. 17 probes went down. That was the one place that Dark was able to do damage. Hilariously enough, 1 drop of 4 Hydras does more damage than 100 supply on the field. 25, 27, 27 probes! That's ridiculous! It's a disaster for Trap, as so many probes have gone down. It looked like he had a beautiful, nearly impeccable hold, but with 31 probes falling, he dips to 40. He's not building any. He's going for what seems to be an almost all-in attack. He has an insanely powerful army now. Guardian Shield, some Storms as well. Force Field gonna cut off these units. He's waiting for the money Storms here. So many Immortals. This might be too much in the unit count, though. There's 1 more Storm banked up. Some Roaches trying to slip around. I think he either needs to recall or just back off. The Stutter Step is good, but is it good enough? The Immortals trying to hold the line. More Charge Lots coming up. He can use a little bit of Warp Prism micro maybe here. The Charge Lots in the front. The Warp Prism gets picked off, but Trap is pushing back. There's a lot of Hydras. In comes an Oracle. Another Warp Prism. Where did that come from? Nobody knows, but the Roaches are evaporating. This cost-efficient Immortal Archon army. The Storms did so much damage. The drones are pulled off the line. The Archon micro back. So many Immortals holding the line. Every drone. 15 drones have gone down. The Archons push forward into the fray. 122 to 84 supply. This base, the Infestation Pit falls. The base falls. The drones falls. This base is forfeit. And plus 3 missile attacks could fall as well. A pretty important upgrade at this point in the game. Every edge. This is the problem with Roach Hydra. It's just so cost ineffective. Another Hydra drop tries to come in. It's 54 to 29 workers. More went down. Another 11 workers went down. This base will be blasted to pieces. I don't know if that's enough Roach Hydra. He recalls out. Gets 4 Immortals picked off before the recall. I don't know if that was the choice from Trap. I think that's a lot of Roach Hydra. But Trap will hold, but neither player with a great economy. Both players, well, right now Trap only has 35 probes, and Dark only has 1 really fresh mining base. A Greater Spire's on the way. Dark trying to get to that tech. The problem, and that's the beauty of free plays. The problem with going Greater Spire right now is Dark doesn't really have the... If he gets Broodlords out, but if they get picked off or he's out of position, Trap can easily take advantage of that. There is no Blink, though. He has a Stargate, but what are you going to do? Make Void Rays now? No, it's not happening. But an insane game. Another these Hydra drops. What is this? Brood War? The Hydra drops actually doing great damage. The Hydra drops, if Dark wins this game, it is the Hydra drops that did it. Just incredible. Another a Roach drop coming in. The Dropper Lord's here to tank. The probe count. 3 Brood Lords on the way, but 3 Brood Lords do not end the game. Trap struggling to rebuild those workers, but he does have another Hydra. So many Templar. Just the power, the sheer power of this Protoss army. Even though he's down on supply, it's insane how much damage the Immortals, the Templar, the Archons can put out. Roach Hydra does not stand a chance, but Broodlords can slow it down. Oop, one Archon being picked off there. Force fields could still be a dangerous part of this. An incredible game. This is one of the best games I've seen in a while, at least so far. And I've seen a lot of good games. It's a high standard. Alright. More Broodlords on the way. But the Observer's right there! The Observer sees all of this. He knows. He's known for a while. Trap takes the worker lead. Can anybody expand here? We'll have to see. The main base. Immortals being produced. Because he still has to have a potent ground army. There's still so much Roach Hydra. You can't just ignore it. You can't just deal with the Broodlords. Roach Hydra does not... Blink Stalkers do not deal with Roach Hydra. They get melted. They get shredded. A War Prism coming in. Very little HP left. Gets taken down. A fleet beacon's on the way. Neither player willing to commit their armies. They're still in a precarious situation. They've stabilized. Both sides have stabilized. Trap was able to push through, but not quite end it. And Dark did incredible economic damage. So we've had a couple minutes of build-up time. That interruption to your regularly scheduled programming brought to you by Comcast. A War Prism died and nothing else happened to spoil it. But the Broodlords will sneak around. Both sides back to a high economy. Trap could use another Nexus, but he's not maxed out. He wants to get rid of these Roaches. At this point, Roaches are not a very valuable unit. That's a lot of Broodlords. 10 Broodlords. There's only 5 Stalkers on the field. 2 Tempests in production, but Broodlords are not the quickest of units. A single DT. There is a Spore Crawler here. The Broodlords are not committing far off the creep. Trap needs to he needs to go for this northern base. If he can't get another base up, he becomes very vulnerable to just a direct attack. Some Roaches will go down. Dark won't mind too much. He now knows the army is out of position. It looks like... Is this another... Okay. The Tempest will be scouted out. He realizes the Tempest production has begun. Dark is inspired to attack. He knows if there are too many Tempests, these Broodlords are just going to get melted. But there's no vision here from Trap. This army's going to show up, and he's going to be pretty far out of position. Does he recall to the base? It's way too dangerous. That's not worth it. He's going to try to move into position. The Nexus, the defenses are already going to fall before this army can move. Some charge lots going to the south. Dark is maxed out. He has no reinforcements to deal with this. The entire army is over on this right side of the map. He has to bring some of it back. The Tempests are going to try to get some pickoffs. Are there any Oracles to get a tag? He could get a tag on the Broods. That would make it so much easier for the Tempests. The charge lots come through. 13 probes will go down, a handful of drones. But the Tempest will help push this back. 108 to 131 army supply. He has to target down the Broodlords. The Oracle looking for a tag. That's so important. And he gets a tag on most of it. Beautiful tag. That's going to allow him to get the vision, get in the position, and that means Dark has to retreat. There's a Warp Prism to the top side. Another base to the south. Trap re-expanding to his third. The Tempest microing back. Some storms will hit the Corruptors. He doesn't have that many Corruptors. He doesn't quite have enough Tempest to one-shot the Broods. Looks like with one more, unfortunately going to lose another round. It seems Trap is spoiling for a fight, but he's bleeding out Tempest now. Oh my god. 1 HP Broodlords hurt badly. Trap backed up against a wall of his own design. The Corrosive Biles almost connecting on the Templar, but not quite. The Broodlord's trying to be targeted down. Storms hitting everything. Blake Stalkers to the side. He's trying to target down the Storms on the Broodlords. The Broodlords eat it for Thanksgiving dinner. And down goes every single Brood. Am I wrong? No, target the Broods, Trap. Trap holds the Templar once again. The Tempest and Templar combination. He loses every Templar. He loses every Tempest. But Trap holds once again and is counterattacking with an incredibly strong force. And the Broodlords are gone. There's no easy counter to these units. More Hydras and Lings are a great choice. There's only one Archon in the mix. Wait, does he have Templar inside there? No, he doesn't. That might be a game ender. More Stalkers being warped in, but he's up against Hydralisk. They have 3-1. A very cost-efficient unit composition. He can go for the Warp Prism as well. He can cut off the reinforcements. Trap trying to push through for the victory. A single Broodlord coming up. It will be targeted down. Drones thrown into the fray. The Corruptors have taken out the Warp Prism. That's the end of the reinforcements. The Broodlord, another Broodlord comes into the fight. Transfuses, the energy being exhausted, but the Queen's eating so much damage. Trap dropping in supply. He only has the Immortals and a single charge lot left. The Corruptors desperately trying to figure out what to do with their lives. The Broodlord must hold. The Broodlord against everything. The Broodlord against the world. He forces the recall out before the next round of production. And Trap once again pushes through, but once again shut down just barely. About as close as it could be. One Broodlord forcing out the recall. Doesn't save the base, but saves the game. The Immortals once again. He doesn't have a recall, though, if these get caught out. He does not have adrenal glands for the Lings. Oh my god, Immortals do so much damage. But here come the Hydras. He's going to get the Warp Prism almost instantaneously. Is there enough damage? He has to decide. Does he target down the base? But at what cost? He's going to lose a couple of Immortals for that base. Dark now no longer has more than one really fresh mining base. The worker count, 47 to 50. Trap hasn't expanded in like 15 minutes to a new base. 2 more broods. The scrappiness. The units lost. Dark has lost so much more. That's what Roach Hydra will do to you. But he's had so much more income. He's expanded to so many more bases. Trap finally. He takes another. And Trap is actually up by 25 supply. But how many Broodlords? 4 broods underneath that little Overlord there. 4 Broodlords. More on the way. There's not that much anti-air to answer. A handful of Templar, a handful of Stalkers. He's warping more. Trap long distance mining. 1 Roach and 6 Banes on the way. If he can deal with those charge lots, then there's nothing to cover when he's trying to snipe the broods. He does not have Baneling speed. It looks like Trap's going to try to get in here. The Banelings, though, will connect with most of this big storms to start. The Broodlords will be forced to retreat. The Spine Crawlers, the backbone of the defense, will be cut to pieces. More drones off the line! How many times is this going? All the drones! The storm's hitting a lot of the Hydras. He tries to come in and snipe the broods, but a good back off. The blink was already committed. The Immortals walling in the Stalkers, and down goes the anti-air. The counterattack. The Warp Prism going down as well. No reinforcements. The drones lead the charge. They will be pulled back. The Broodlords moving forward. There's only a single Archon. He's trying to kill the Hydras, but the Broodlords unleash the Broodlings onto the ground. Dark holds and takes the supply lead, but loses 17 drones to do it. But at the same time, a DT, 9 kills, killed every drone at this base. It's 34 drones to 50 probes. Trap is mining. He's got minerals. There's 3 Corruptors. 3 Corruptors could take down a base if the Stalkers are out of position. They could. He could caustic spray. We're getting to the point where Corruptors could change the game. This base not going to last long, but the Hydras have something to say about it. He's going to go for it. Does he have a recall? Doesn't matter because the Hydras are too close. Losing those Immortals is losing the backbone of his army. This is happening. This is a thing that is happening. 3 Stalkers are warped in. It's going to be close. The shields are down. He's warping in more Stalkers. It looks like it'll just be enough to save the base before it goes down, but what about this one? The Corruptors are shot out of the sky. Dark, 97 to 83 supply. A very high army supply. There's a handful of Templar. The Broodlords aren't here yet. Storm, incredibly good against Hydralisk. An Archon being warped in. You can't go too close. The Broodlords, a single strike from the Broods is very dangerous. But more Stalkers trying to come in from the left side. He's trying to target down a Brood. The Blink Stalker's moving in. He gets one of them, but at what cost? Dark continues to push forward. Trap still has this mining. Dark, 37 drones. But this army is very vulnerable. A handful, half a dozen Hydras and 2 Broodlords. Oh, and the Stalkers are on the chase. They blink forward. Half the Broods will fall. 6 more Hydras on the way. A single DT. Every unit counts. 3-2 against +3 attack and +1 shields. He can blink on the Brood. Will he go for it? He does. He gets it, but the Hydras will return. Every Brood has gone down. 20 Hydras against 11 Stalkers. 1 Archon, 1 DT, 2 High Templar. A handful of Hydras moving up to the north. A DT could protect this. Both players desperately trying to get someone. A DT comes in. He will be shot down. It looks like a recall was used to move units up to really the only mining base here for Trap. He needs it. A lurker den on the way. Better late than never. A War Prism. Now, this is a vulnerable army. Trap has a good army, but if he doesn't land storms, then the Stalkers just die to the Hydras. It's all about the storms again. Dark does not feel comfortable going to Broodlords. He is re-expanding. The incomes... Trap actually had a pretty healthy income because he's lost so many probes in this game. We've seen 74 probes go down and 65 drones in this ridiculous exchange. A DT comes in. There are no drones to kill. Did he get a slice off? I don't think he did. The army moving into position. These Hydras could get flanked. Oh, dangerous game. Dangerous game. Is he going to blink on him? Because a blink on him means that his Stalkers will die. Is it worth it? Both players, such a danger. And a Hydra hit squad on the other side. 1 DT warping. Oh, he needs to get back onto the creep. He's bleeding units. This Nexus could fall. There's no pylons here to warp in. He's fighting. Gets the Warp Prism. A few roaches in the front as well. Trap distracted. He's going for the probes. More probes are going to go down. He's going to get the base as well. Some units are coming out. The Nexus will fall. The Hydras will back off. Some Stalkers and Immortals are on the chase. He's going to try to target down the Immortal. Trap micros back. A Stalker. 9 probes and 8 drones have fallen in this exchange here. Dark is down, but he has lurkers. Is there detection? There are no observers. He can't see the lurkers. So Dark has the tools. How many Immortals? That is a very strong Protoss army. Now remember, neither player really has workers, so despite the supplies, these armies are very large. A handful of Zerglings. They don't have adrenal glands, though. So not as dangerous as they could be. Adaptive talents for that lurker burrow and movement speed. Force fields being used at the 27-minute mark. What an amazing game. There's an observer. Where did it come from? The creep spread finally being cleaned up, but it's only Stalkers over here. He gets the observer as well. No more detection. 2 more Immortals being built. Dark is mining again. He's got all his lurkers at his most important base. 38 drones to 33 probes. Hydra versus Stalker at the very edge of the creep. A charge lock comes in. All the lurkers move. That's a risky maneuver there. Slices through, but a couple go down. Thank you. Dark moving into the middle. I mean, Trap moving into the middle, rather. And that is a deadly army. Dark could engage the... It all comes down to the storm. He gets one of the... Oh, wait, he saves the Templar of the Prism. A handful of Stalkers. The lurkers, they do have adaptive talent. He's actually forcing the army back, catching the Immortals, catching the reinforcements. Trap will retreat. I'm not sure if that was the right call, but... Is there an observer? There are 2 observers now. Are they here? A DT going to this side. Lurkers will burrow. A DT on this base. This army moving down. If he can just catch the lurkers unburrowed for a second. Even a second. That's the lurker den right there, vulnerable. More drones are going down. He clears up the DT on the other base. Lurkers are trying to get in position. We'll take out a Stalker. The lurker den will fall as well. Trap looking to be in a deadly position. There's an Oracle here, but he doesn't have a Revelation. He's actually trying to get on top of the army. He's getting so close. They burrow so fast. If he can snipe the Observer, of course, Templar are still a danger. There's only 2 Templar left. It looks like a couple got sniped. The Warp Prism goes down. No reinforcements and no micro potential. At the same time, this one Zergling trying very, very hard. Unfortunately, no upgrades. We have more Overseers on the way. He needs to be able to snipe those Observers. He sees the army moving. The observer's here. There are the Templar, but they don't move that quick. The lurkers definitely move faster now, especially that they have their movement speed, and especially on creep. A handful of Hydras will force Trap back in the scrappiest game I have seen in months, if not years. 35 to 31 workers, 1 DT gonna force these units back. The lurkers actually on the counterattack, but what is their objective? Will there be a tag? 1 immortal? The lurkers will burrow. A tag on many of the lurkers. Trap coming back to defend. The army supply 70 to 82. Trap in favor, but these are lurkers. He's getting up. If he can get onto the robos, there can be no more immortal, no more observer production. The cyber core as well. But, okay, he's in. There is no retreat. He is in Trap's base for better or for worse, and now Trap's own wall works against him. These robos are going to fall. Wait, he's going for it. He's right on his own. The storms will hit. The lurkers are all committed here. So much damage coming through on both sides. It looks like the storms will finish things off. Immortals being taken out. I have no idea what happened there. I'm not sure if that was the play from Dark. Going deep. Both players, whenever they go into their opponent's bases, seem to get cut to pieces. But how many Templar survived? There's still 2 Templar. Just now warped in. 1 robo went down, but all of the lurkers did as well. It looks like the Oracle falls is what seems to have died here. But does Trap have the numbers now? He doesn't have any storms with this. Those are well upgraded Hydras. He's trying to use that concave. A handful of Zerglings can eat the charges. Oh, a bit of miscommunication from the army because there are Hydras on this base as well. Some charge lots have to be warped in as he's fighting, which means that Dark was able to take this fight. But at the same time, the charge lots should barely win. But this base is so key. This is Dark's only really true mining base. The Templar, a big storm. He gets the Templar. The base will fall. The charge lot save this. Trap 78 supply. But the recall, he doesn't. He gets 1 immortal. Dark no longer really has mining, but Trap, he's barely mining from this base as well. How does this end? 70 to 78. Army supply goes to Trap. 2 more Templar, I believe, were just warped in. They don't have storms yet. Where does Dark go? He doesn't have the money for another base. He long-distance mines it. He's only got a couple mineral patches. He's now in the main. Trap doesn't have the money to warp in units to defend. The Hydras are coming back. The cyber core is going to fall. That's not going to be a huge blow, but it's going to hurt. The Hydras are slipping back up towards the north side. Trap realizing that his base is not as important as holding his economy. A couple charge lots. Did he cancel? I don't think he canceled. The Zerglings getting into the main. Dark has no income. He needs to deal with this base now. Oh, those Templar. It all comes down to the storms. GG, Dark. That's too much. Dark has to tap out. Trap takes game 2. Just barely. I think the move to go in with those... I think diving in with the lurkers like that was what decided it. I think he could have gotten a better position. He trapped himself in Trap's base with the lurkers, and the storms just hit so hard. But he knew he had no answer to a handful of Templar and some charge lots, and Trap had mining. GG. 33 minutes later. What a game. Let's go into game 3.